You know, folks, the Fullerton Airport is a very, very interesting place right now. There's a lot of stuff going on at that airport right now that I don't want to get into too much because there's a very big lawsuit that's involving some business owners there. And but I will tell you that there was a plane crash that is in the news right now. It took place on Super Bowl Sunday, and it resulted in the deaths of 5 people. All right, and this isn't your normal plane crash, folks, because this plane didn't just crash into a house. This was a Cessna. I think it was a twin-engine plane. It was like a 1981 Cessna 414S, I think, is the model. This particular type of airplane has been known to have issues with the exhaust system and fuel ignition. This plane took off from the Fullerton Airport, ladies and gentlemen, and if you want to know what's going on at the Fullerton Airport, look no further than the FullertonInformer.com. Just Google Fullerton Airport, Fullerton Informer. But this plane blew up in the middle of the sky and plunged to the ground and blew up a house and killed people on the ground, 4 people on the ground that were having a Super Bowl party at 1:30 in the afternoon on a Sunday. This plane blew up in the air. All right? Now, the Fullerton Airport is the airport in the city that I live, ladies and gentlemen. And Fullerton is a corrupt city run by very corrupt people. The police department is corrupt. The city council is corrupt. The city government is corrupt to the core. And I have stated many times that there's at least $100 million missing from the city coffers because all the roads are falling apart and there's no money to fix anything. And now we've got talk in Fullerton of now having to pay extra to have our water mains redone, but yet nobody's questioning where all the money went that should have done this for decades. But the point I want to stick to here is the deaths of these people in Fullerton, I believe, could have been prevented. The deaths in Yorba Linda, excuse me. This plane blew up in the air after it took off from the Fullerton Airport, and by the way, it flew right over my house when it took off. I live in the flight path, folks. These planes come and go over my house, all right? And the problem I have with all this is, I think it was about a month or 2 ago, the airport manager of Fullerton started going bonkers with the letters he was sending out, telling people to get your aircraft up in the sky or get them out of here. And then he was running around making everybody fix all their extension cords and their hangars. I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to turn the Fullerton Airport into another bar venue like downtown Fullerton, because that's what's been done with one hangar already. That's been turned into basically a wedding venue and a nightclub venue for a drug cop who's got some tight connections with all the crooked city officials to run a legitimate aviation business out of Fullerton. And you know, there's all kinds of allegations of impropriety. There's I don't know how many, I think it's $100 million of the lawsuit against the city over kicking out the aviation company so they could put in this nightclub. But what's happening at the airport is, I believe there's a purge going on to get rid of aviation businesses, to turn the Fullerton Airport into a nightclub scene. You know, serving liquor and having dancing and live music in these hangars instead of having aviation businesses. And what has happened, I believe, as a result of this purge and this push by city officials to get people out of there, is they forced airplanes off the ground that weren't airworthy. And I have very serious questions about the mechanics on the ground at the Fullerton Airport. And one has to wonder if this particular Cessna, whose ownership has reportedly changed hands, but the title hasn't been changed back in January, that was involved in this crash. I don't know who was servicing this aircraft, but I think there's only one mechanic outfit on the ground at the Fullerton Airport. And instead of the Fullerton city government focusing on extension cords on the ground and you know, code violations inside the hangars, I wonder if the Fullerton Airport management team is focusing on the service records and the accountability of the mechanics on the ground at that airport, because I believe this is a common problem in those planes from what I have researched. And there, you know, in the aircraft world, there's a thing like recalls in cars, where there's these bulletins that are put out by the FAA, things to fix, things to watch, things that go wrong. You know, like in some of the old Mercedes, that camshaft pulley can come off, you know, there's, you know, the shear pin goes, whatever. There's all these cars got recalls on airbags. Well, there's airplanes that have known defects, and they're supposed to be continuously addressed by aviation mechanics. And so I would question if this particular 1981 Cessna 414, I think it's an S model, has had a recent go-over by the mechanics on the ground at the Fullerton Airport. I believe there's only one outfit there. Where are the service records for inspecting that aspect of the known defect of that aircraft before it was forced into the sky, perhaps by the edict of the airport manager at Fullerton to get off the ground or get these things out of here letters that went out? You see, I believe Fullerton has got blood on its hands again, folks, because of all the crooked dealings in that city. I believe that they're focusing on the wrong things for the wrong reasons, has put the right things for the right reasons out of touch, out of sight, and out of mind, to the detriment of 5 innocent people, ladies and gentlemen. That's right. The deaths of those 4 people that were burned alive in their home in Yorba Linda on Super Bowl Sunday by a plane that blew up in the middle of the air and fell into their living room and ignited their house, I believe could have been prevented, folks. You see, I believe if the city of Fullerton was not run by such a bunch of corrupt criminal thugs, and I believe if the airport was run like an airport instead of a nightclub with all kinds of, crooked deals going on in there, and if safety was their primary concern, I believe all 5 of those people would still be alive today. I believe if they weren't so focused on getting people out of their businesses and turning that place into a Calle Revolucion or Las Vegas Strip type environment, and I believe if they were focused more on the quality of the aviation purpose of that airport and the services that are supposed to be provided, and inspecting the service records and the service reputation and the actions of the mechanics at that airport, that those people would still be alive. And you know what's worse, folks, is it can happen again. That's right. It can happen again. Because if there's a bunch of planes that are being forced off the ground because the airport manager wants to start kicking planes out of there so they can turn that place into Las Vegas Boulevard with nightclubs and stripper poles inside these hangars, serving alcohol and God knows what else can be flown in there when no one's looking. That's the problem, folks. Anyway, that's just a little update on Fullerton. I thought people should know that a news story in Orange County is referring to this as a plane crashing into a house. Folks, this plane didn't crash into a house, okay? This plane blew up in the air and it fell into a house. All right? Cessnas don't blow up in the air unless somebody put explosives on them, or unless somebody botched the service on an airplane with a known issue and ignored it. That's right. Who serviced that plane last? And was this issue with that 1981 Cessna 414 addressed with the exhaust, I believe it's on the wing, in proximity to fuel systems that can't ignite the plane? Who worked on that plane last at the airport, and who is checking off on the service records of those mechanics to see if that was addressed? No, the Fullerton Airport manager is more worried about extension cords on the ground in hangars than the service records of the airplanes that are flying over people's homes every day and every night. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, the Fullerton Airport has no control tower after 8 or 9 o'clock. There is nobody watching what's coming in and out of that airport. So what could be coming into the Fullerton airport after hours? You name it, ladies and gentlemen. They could be smuggling drugs. They could be smuggling weapons. They could be smuggling nuclear devices. They could be running children through there. They could be running sex trafficked children through there. They could be running heroin. They could be running explosives. Anything could be running through the Fullerton airport after hours, and nobody's paying attention. I have the police department on record in front of the Fullerton airport when the police were called on me from going around the airport filming. There's a guy that runs a hangar there, and he's driving around on the airport with blacked out windows and no license plate on his car, okay? And he's got a helicopter business there. How do you get away with blacked out windows and driving around with no license plates on an airport and on public streets? Well, they called the cops on me because I was taking pictures of this. And so I asked the cops about, who's watching what goes on at that airport. And I got these cops on camera admitting that they do not police the airport. So who knows what's coming in and out of there. But I do know what came out of there on Sunday, and that was an airplane that was in bad shape that should have never left the tarmac, and instead it blew up and fell on somebody's house and wiped out a family, folks. And that's one too many dead people, in my opinion. Because a man's home is his castle. When you got city officials, they're on one hand trying to turn an airport into a nightclub, and on the other hand, looking for reasons to kick people out of there so they could turn their hangar into a nightclub. And then you got the guys running around doing fire inspections, looking for extension cords instead of looking at the service records of all these airplanes, making sure they're airworthy and not endangering the public. But that's not going on, folks. That's not going on. I think you need to all realize that everywhere we live in our communities, that we need to have our eyes open, because all of these things can be prevented if people would just get out of their slumber and stop sucking on the bong and sipping on the beer and sucking on the frosting and watching the cartoons and cozying up with your blankie and your Hot Pockets and your little Cheeto bag. You people need to wake up, because everything around us is crumbling, folks, because nobody gives a damn, okay? It's time to start caring, and it's time to start holding people accountable. What I do is I tell you how to do it. I tell you about what I see in my town, and I go on video and show you how I do it, and I want you to force multiply this. All right? That's the message for this morning, folks. My heart goes out to those families, okay? Because I can't imagine coming home to see my house in a ball of flames with my family dead. But you know, those things happen, and you want to know why? Because accidents happen. But you know what, folks? The reality is there's always a cause for an accident. And sometimes accidents aren't accidents, and sometimes accidents can be prevented. But every single time something does happen, we can't pretend it can't happen to us, because it could. And you could be next. This is Joe Imbriano, the Fullerton Informer, P.O. Box 4121, Fullerton, California, 92834. joeimbriano777@gmail.com. On the web at thefullertoninformer.com. Subscribe to this channel. Make sure the bell's clicked with the parentheses around it. Get all the notifications. Get the word out on this channel. Get the likes up on this video, ladies and gentlemen. And get the word out how to deal with problems in your community. You need to be involved with your community issues. Fullerton is just a microcosm of a larger problem, folks. But if you can't fix things at the local level, it's very unlikely you can fix them at the higher level. So you got to start somewhere, folks. Get involved in your town. God bless all of you.